You know, Tim and I were talking before we walked in that I hope this new interest in the Constitution, this fervor that we're seeing by the citizens of our country as those constitutional rights are being eroded in Washington, D.C., that there will be a new desire to understand, to read that simple document, to understand what it meant, the underpinnings of why that document was written. The Constitution was written by a group of individuals who had personally experienced what happens when a government has no limits on its abilities to intrude into their private lives, confiscate their resources. These people understood that. They'd seen that British monarchy impose tax after tax, restrict freedom after freedom, and impose unbearable mandates from a very distant center of government. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? I mean, has anyone seen that lately? I'd happily spend a little time talking about a Washington bureaucracy that is expanding like the Blob. I know some of you are old enough to remember that 1950s movie, The Blob, and that's what is going on right now. It kind of reminds me of. It's engulfing our freedoms, one after another. But that's a whole other conversation we can have. Our constitutional protections are just as important today as they've ever been, because freedom still matters. Freedom is not free. We all still believe in the individual liberties that are woven into the foundation of our nation because they were God ordained. Long before they were written down, they were ordained by God.
That's right.
Here in Texas, we've taken a number of steps to protect the freedoms of homeschool families while encouraging the essential element of our state's overall approach to education. We've worked with the Texas Education Agency to clarify the rights of homeschoolers, including that process of awarding transfer credits. In 2003, if you will recall, we passed a law that required state colleges and universities to use the same admission standards for all students, regardless of what type of school they had graduated from. Made a lot of sense. During this session, we worked together with Tim. We passed a number of public education reforms that increased the level of accountability in our schools, including methods to increase a parent's ability to know how their children are doing in school and how school districts are doing with your money. I'd say the notion of accountability is nothing new to those of you in the homeschooling business. You already know how your children are doing because you're the ones doing the teaching. You're guiding the projects. You're grading the test. If your spouse is anything like mine, he or she probably knows where every penny goes. So financial accountability is nothing new either. The bottom line is that everyone does better when students understand high expectations for success. Teachers have a stake in their students' outcomes, and the whole team is communicating clearly. I guess I just kind of described what you do every day. I described what homeschooling is really all about. Parental involvement is essential to every child's success, and it's hard to imagine a more involved parent than one who makes sacrifices to teach their children at home. Tim, you've heard me say that often. There is no greater parental sacrifice, and I might add, no greater love, than to teach your child at home. I was sharing with Tim, I've had the opportunity to reread a book that's been around for about 30 years. It's called The 5,000-Year Leap. And as a matter of fact, I would highly recommend you put it on your reading list. The author is a gentleman whose name is Cleon Skousen, S-K-O-U-S-E-N. And he shares his views about the foundation of our nation. The foundational elements, I guess, is a good way to say it. Placing a very special importance on faith in God, which is the source of this remarkable success that America has had. He lays out 28 principles that underlie the success of our nation. I'm reminded here of principle number 26, which reads, quote, "The core unit which determines the strength of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect its integrity." And to kind of expound on that, and to support his contention, he quotes Alex de Tocqueville, who wrote, there is certainly no country in the world where the tie of marriage is more respected than in America, or where conjugal happiness is more highly or worthily appreciated. That was the America that de Tocqueville saw on his journey across our nation. And that is the America that I know still exists today in the vast majority of our homes across our nation and across our state. It still exists. It still exists because the God-given responsibility to love and guide our children has not changed since the beginning of time. That's right. It is forever. You see, I support homeschooling because it allows students to learn and to guide our children. It allows them to learn and to grow in a setting that reflects a family and a family's values and a family's beliefs. Therefore, we must continue to protect the rights of those families to make educational decisions that work best for their family. Your investment in your children's education will not only improve their future, but the future of this state and this nation. During your time in this conference, I hope that you'll be encouraged in your efforts, and you'll continue to strive to establish, to strengthen relationships with like-minded people that are in this room. Share your ideas with them. Soak up their wise counsel. So when you return home to the classroom, energized and ready for another year of building the future of this great state. God bless you, and through you, may God continue to bless the great state of Texas.